Hey, how you doing? I'm finally back on track with my photos, which you may or may not have noticed because I haven't really got to the social media stuff quite as much, but that's going back to normal eventually. Um, I'm also starting to work with the gelli print and the multimedia stuff again, which is really nice. So I thought I'd just show you quickly one thing that I'm working on. When it comes to the photo transfers. So I quite often I'll use the photo transfers or do photo transfers on the gelli plate of photos that I've taken, and I'll put them on tissue papers with paint and other prints and things, and basically create what could essentially be collage material, sometimes monoprints. And back to the monoprint idea. Okay, so I'm going to show you roughly what I did, and I'm going to do a similar one or pretty much use the same image, and just take you through that process very broadly, very quickly. And it's not as a teaching type thing, it's just to show you what I'm doing. Finally, hold on. So this is the image, which was taken in Berlin about 2 years ago, I believe. I believe. I took the picture. I was there. It was 2 years ago. And it's taken from what was the east side, fairly close to the Berlin Wall. Just looking across there at these nice old buildings with a bit of graffiti. So that's just a kind of rough print on copy paper, just to give you an idea of what it was that I was working on or what I'm going to be working on. Oh, sorry, cat. I just hit the cat in the face with a piece of paper. Sorry about that. That's what happens when you lie on the table. And then they convert it to black and white, high contrast, on quite nice photocopy paper. Make sure there's lots of high contrast there, and that's what I will use for the photo transfer onto the gelli plate. And then when that's done and I've dried, I'll start painting in layers. And again, this is really just as kind of get myself to used to it. It's not necessarily a final product or the ultimate aim, but it is really enjoyable and it is quite a bit of a learning experience, really. So this was the original, as we go back to. So I decided to paint in similar colours, and everything's in reverse, of course, because it's the way it's done with the gelli plate. And when I pull the final print, I got this. It was a bit cartoony, a bit grungy, but quite interesting. I'm not sure I like it, but it's a nice process that I'm going to work with and see what else I can do with. What I'm going to do is actually do this again, maybe in a bit more detail. This one's a slightly different version, as I say. It's a bit of a cropped one, although it's larger, and that's why. So I'm going to take you through that and just give you a quick idea about what it is that I do, or not all the time, what I'm going to be doing. Okay, so see if you can follow this. It might make more sense than I'm making now. Right. Okay, so I'm going to start by putting a bit of Mars Black on the plate. I don't want it too thick. Just get an even coverage. If it's too thick, it'll just lift everything off and there'll be no print. I say this like I know exactly what's going to happen, but one of the fun about this kind of thing is you don't know. And sometimes they work, sometimes they don't work. And sometimes they work the way you want, and sometimes they don't. Well, it might be a bit much, but we'll see. Yeah, now I'm lifting too much off, I think. Let's see how we go. Just using this to get rid of the excess. Here's the print. Now I'm just going to put this on very awkwardly. I know. See what we can get. Just move it out and it will, see I've already got it off the edge there, so I haven't done a very good job there. But here we go. And that's not too bad. I can clean up. You see its print size is different. Like this. So it's not bad, but it could be better. But we'll work with it and see what happens. So that's the photo transfer. Now I'll let it dry and just start painting in colours in different layers. Probably, well, not actually in layers, just different colours here. And then I have to dry it, and then I'll get ready to pull the print.
And this is where my microphone failed, so I lost the record and other voice on here, which is not a particularly bad thing. But basically what I've started to do here is to add some colour starting with the trees. Just basic painting. I think colours I chose for around trees were cadmium yellow, phthalo green, burnt umber, and there might have been a bit of red oxide in there, I'm not sure. Just mixing those, remembering that the actual print will be at the foreground or the forefront, and the colours kind of sit behind that because you're pulling it off the actual jelly plate. But that's just what I'm doing right now. So once the paint had dried, I was getting ready to pull the print, and instead of using matte medium, which is what I would probably use most of the time when I'm pulling prints off the jelly plate, I decided to use parchment acrylic paint. That's the reason for that being that I knew there were going to be some white gaps there in the actual image, because no, it isn't completely coloured in. So I just thought rather than having pure white showing through in dots, I just put the parchment to make it a little bit more subtle. The paper I used is a mixed media paper. Once I've laid the paper down and pressed it, I needed to sit for a while to adhere to the paper and to dry off. So I put some books on top of it and give it some time. So originally the idea was for an hour or two to leave it, but it ended up staying longer than that.
Okay, so I was going to leave this for a couple of hours to let it dry. But I had to leave, it was the end of the day, and so I've left it overnight, so it should be pretty well dry now. So I'm just going to lift this stuff off. Lift up the book and see how this looks. It's pretty sticky. Try and do it without bending the paper too much. It might be better to actually turn it over. You can see it from that side. And this way I can just peel off the jelly plate instead of peeling. Oh, so I've got a couple of places of stuck there. See? There we go. Okay. Not too bad, as you can see. So there's a couple of patches here where the paint is, the paint is stuck to the jelly plate, I should say. So I can actually clean this up a little bit, give it some finishing touches. I can even add to it by, if I want to add any papers to it. We'll see how that goes, but for now, that is it. And just to show you, this was the original, a quick print of the original photo. It's actually fairly close-ish colour-wise, which wasn't really what I was attempting, but I mean, as I say, I can add stuff to this and embellish it in different ways, which I might do, but this is really a test print. You can see there's some paint did not come through here, so I'd have to colour this somehow. Maybe kind of sharpen all this stuff a bit.
Well, thanks for watching. I'm sure you found it vastly entertaining. If you're interested, do hit the like button, comment below, and subscribe. Thank you. Bye bye.